Thank you so much for joining me, everybody. It's an absolute pleasure to be with you for today's CMA Showcase video. It's really exciting for me because I'm actually joined by Alison McWhinnie. Alison, thank you so much for being here today with us.
Thank you for inviting me.
Oh, it's a real pleasure. It really is. I think probably the best thing to do is to start by asking you to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about the work that you do.
Yes, of course. So I'm Alison McWhinnie, and my business is called after my name, Alison McWhinnie. And the key focus of my business is well-being for both humans and animals. So I am a qualified healer for both humans and animals, and I'm very much weaving that into my work. So key areas of my business at the moment, I have a weekly podcast um, called Alison McWhinnie Podcast. And in that podcast, I have conversations about business and well-being success. And I interview people in business asking for their tips on business success, but also interviewing complementary therapists, medical people on their tips for well-being. Now, you could argue that those are two niches. But actually, I think there's a lot of common ground because if you haven't got your well-being sorted, that's not good for your own business, whether you run your own business or if you're working in somebody else's business. So it really does have to be a priority. And I know so many of us quite often don't put ourselves first enough. And so this is a bit of a call to action that actually putting yourself first sometimes really does matter because when you fill your own cup full, then you're able to help more people. So we've got the weekly podcast. And if anybody who is into complementary therapies would like to appear on the podcast and share their tips for success, please do get in contact with me. Running aside that, I'm also organising restorative wellbeing retreats. And we've got our first one coming up in October in the Surrey Hills countryside. So very much a case of pressing the pause button in a beautiful setting with two lakes and swans. And I've partnered with a yoga teacher there. So we're introducing healing, yoga, journaling, and sort of hoping to give a really relaxing day for people as we edge towards winter. And I'm also doing events, including online as well. So also in the pipeline is first aid for dogs.
Oh, lovely.
And I also do online healing via Zoom, or can just do it via distant healing for both humans and animals.
Alison, that's amazing. Well, you're a very, very busy lady indeed. That is absolutely extraordinary. I love this combination of complementary medicine, natural well-being, and business. You are so
Yeah,
right. Health is wealth, isn't it? If you haven't got your health, you've
absolutely.
got nothing. So yeah, it's a very, very interesting thing. It's fascinating to me because for example, when the CMA runs adverts on social media, for example, we'll sometimes get people commenting like, well, shouldn't you all be doing this for free? And, you shouldn't be charging for your services and so on. And it's always quite surprising to me that there is a little bit of that attitude out there.
Mhm.
And it's a little bit as if, we don't deserve to have a roof over our heads and to be able to afford to have practices to be able to look after the people that we serve. What's your sort of response to that? And do you ever get any of that sort of thing?
Well, I do some things for free. So I do some pro bono work. And, if a charity approaches me, I'm in conversation with a charity at the moment for dogs. And I won't say which one because we're still in conversation, but I've offered my services for free there because of what they're doing. And it's a very valuable service, what they're doing. And if I can help as an animal healer, then I absolutely will. So I do offer part of my services on a pro bono basis. But equally, we have to pay the bills.
Yes.
That's the bottom line. And so for some things we do have to charge. And also when you are organizing something like a retreat, you have to pay for the venue, you have to pay for food. So you do have costs that you have to meet.
Yes.
And that's just a reality of life. And it's about, I think, getting a balance somewhere in the middle, which
Mm.
I try to do.
Yes, exactly. Well, that's right. By ensuring that you have a healthy business, a healthy health business, it does mean that you can actually help more people along the
Yeah.
way. Alison, it's such an what you do, the work you do is so very interesting. What's your background? How did you get into this? Because it is unusual.
So if you'd asked me in my 20s what I was going to do, healing would never have been on my radar whatsoever.
Right.
So my background includes commercial retail management,
Mm.
charity management, being a trustee of several boards, and also being employed as a non-executive director and executive director of charities and subsidiary companies. So quite commercial.
Mm.
Um, in 1993, I moved into a new flat, and two of my neighbours, a husband and wife team, were healers. And I didn't think anything of it at the time. I didn't think negatively or positively about the fact they were healers. I just accepted them as they were, and they became very good friends. Years later, in 2005, my mother was rushed into hospital very unexpectedly. She had suffered acute renal failure. And when I got to the hospital, she was in resus,
Mm.
and the medical team were fighting to stabilize her heartbeat. And we were in resus for 7 hours. And she was then moved to a high dependency ward where she stayed for a week. And I was told by the consultants, this is serious. We think that she will have to go on to dialysis. We're actually consulting with a specialist team at St George's who are guiding us on a treatment plan, but this is serious. Next day, I bumped into my healer neighbours who said, you look terrible, which isn't good when it comes from a healer. And what has happened? And so I told them the story, and they said, well, we could start distant healing if you would like. And I said, I am taking everything. So fast forward, my mum's kidneys just started working. I was surprised. The consultants were surprised. She was on the high dependency ward for a week and then moved to a heart ward and then discharged. And the consultants were saying to me, what are you doing? Because we were not expecting this result at all.
Yes.
So that was my first taste of healing. And I said to my neighbours, okay, you've now got my attention with that. Fast forward to 2014, and I decided to stop working to become my mum's full-time carer.
Mm.
She was elderly at this point and had accrued a number of illnesses, and with that, a number of consultants. And so it was pretty much full-time care and going to hospital appointments and for tests. And I continued with the distant healing through my neighbours throughout that time. And time after time after time, consultants would say, what are you doing? Different consultants. These test results are much better than we thought. And so while I was still a carer, I became a trustee for the Harry Edwards Healing Sanctuary. I felt a trustee role was a role that I could do and be a carer because I could work at home and keep an ear out for mum. And she passed in 2018. And then a role came up on the staff, and I successfully applied for that. And at that point, I started training to be a healer myself.
Oh,
So I've personal experience of where healing can help.
yes.
I think a lot of people think healing automatically equals cure,
Mm.
and it can do. I have seen that.
Yes.
But it doesn't always. It depends very much on the state the actual body is in.
Yeah.
And very much like doctors, they can cure some people, but they can't cure everybody, even with the same condition.
Yes.
But what I have seen and what I do know for sure is that even if you can't cure that person, healing can really help stabilize the condition,
Mm.
always working with the consultants and doctors. So this is never a replacement for medical care. It's working with them on a complementary basis. And even where I've come across people who are terminally ill, it can still help them with a better quality of life as they're going through that process. So healing is never wasted. And I think one of the key things about healing is it helps you get into the parasympathetic state, so a relaxed state, which is always good for the body in helping it to deal with whatever it's got to deal with.
Alison, honestly, you're giving me goosebumps. I completely agree, but also the reason for the goosebumps is that I work with a group of ladies, and we're all different flavors, different, coming from different cultures, religions, and sort of philosophical beliefs and so on. But we have a healing circle, and it's organized by a dear friend. And I have to say that when somebody calls for help and we all get together, I've seen the most extraordinary things happen, things that you really wouldn't expect to happen, that you would think were completely impossible. So, hence the goosebumps. And I've experienced healing myself when I was very, very poorly and not expected to make it. So, yes, the power of this cannot be underestimated.
Mm,
And I love where you're coming from. You're coming from a position of acknowledging the power and brilliance of conventional medicine.
absolutely.
It is phenomenal. I've benefited from it, so have my family, and I'm sure probably everybody watching has, or if they've been fortunate enough not to need that,
Mm,
well, God bless them. I mean, they've done well in life, but they'll probably have friends and relatives and family and so on and so forth who have. So we can't, in complementary medicine, as you so wisely point out, we're not throwing the baby out with the bathwater and
no.
going, oh no, we are the be all and end all. We work in a complementary way with conventional medicine. And I think where we do incredibly well on our field, and I'd be interested to know your thoughts on this, but I think where we do incredibly well on our side of things is with the lifestyle issues, with improving quality of life, with chronic illnesses that
Mm,
conventional medicine can't really do much for other than to try to suppress symptoms to make the patient more comfortable or what have you, which is fantastic. But I do feel, as you rightly say, getting somebody into that parasympathetic mode where they are in sort of rest, digest, recuperation, and regeneration, that is something that is extraordinarily powerful and potent
mm,
from a healing perspective.
yes.
And I loved the way also that you touched on the fact that not everybody can be cured, because I think a lot of people will come to healers and to other complementary medical practitioners with situations that probably cannot be cured. And in our field, we don't use the word cure, do we? But, we don't promise cures. But what we can do is to make a dramatic improvement,
Yeah.
no matter what stage that person is at. So I love what you're saying. It's absolutely wonderful. And all power to you.
Thank you. I think there's a wider perspective as well. So I would recommend healing even if you're not ill
Yes.
as part of your self-care. In the same way that you might go for a facial or something like that, I would recommend periodic healing
Mm,
appointments because it is getting you into that relaxed state. The body does want to try and heal itself if it can. If you cut yourself, your body will heal. And if you put yourself regularly into a restful state, you are just giving your body that added extra to
yes.
try and do that job.
Yes.
And I think also I would throw the net wider to carers, both family carers, but also people in the medical profession as well, themselves.
Mm,
So one thing I was invited to do, and this I did on a pro bono basis, was to give healing to medical staff in an intensive care unit as we were coming out of COVID. Now, the pressure that team had been under was huge. And many of them felt stressed. Now, I think to work in an intensive care, you have to be very strong.
mm,
I certainly couldn't work there. And these were people who were feeling the stress, even though they'd been in intensive care for 15, 20 years. COVID was just a different matter. And so I went in with a group of healers and we gave healing in the staff room, actually on the intensive care ward, starting off with nurses and sisters and matrons. It was the sisters who'd brought us in. And then we started getting consultants turn up at the door saying, "What are you doing to our nurses? Because they are floating out
Oh,
of your room and we are highly stressed." And I said, "Come on in and we'll show you." So I think it's very important for people in the medical profession themselves, because it's a highly stressed profession, lots of demands, lots of pressures, but also family carers as well, like the position I was in is incredibly stressful when you're looking after a loved one. And sometimes you find yourself in a kind of cycle of emergency after emergency after emergency. There were times that I felt I had a season ticket to London Ambulance.
yep.
And so it's very important for carers to look after themselves so they don't become sick, both because you don't want them to become sick, but to enable them to continue caring as well.
Mm. I think it's incredibly important to acknowledge the massive contribution that unpaid carers make to
Absolutely.
society. I think that there are figures and statistics on this and the amount of money it's saving the government
Yeah.
because unpaid carers obviously don't charge, and we do what we have to do, not through any sense of obligation, but because we are carers because we care.
Mm.
It's not the easiest job at all. I remember and I agree with you, carers must be cared for.
Yes.
I remember when Dad was very, very, very unwell, and I was doing the 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning every single night ambulance or
Mm.
drive if I could get him into the car, driving to A&E for months and months and months and months. I was absolutely on my knees. Uh,
Mm.
and that's just me. That we've all been through similar things. When you get to a certain age, the
Yes.
majority of us will face this. And you are so right, that I think a lot of people don't consider healing for general health and well-being
Mm.
maintenance. And I think it's important. And I love that you've pointed that out. So, with that in mind, how do people contact you and how do you work with people?
So the best way to contact me is by email because I might be recording.
Yes.
And the email is alison@alisonmcwhinnie.com.
Right.
And I have a website as well, alisonmcwhinnie.com. So it's very much my name in everything that I do. And at the moment, I'm tending to give healing online, but we'll look at developing in person further down the line as I develop my business.
Yes, I think a lot of people don't realize that you can do distance healing. I
Yeah.
think a lot of people thinking, "Oh, I'd love to see Alison. I'd love," but I don't know where she is. I don't know, can I get her? But the point is that distance healing it's a thing. It's real, isn't
It
it?
is as effective. It is as
Yes.
effective. I've got a YouTube channel where I post the podcasts, and one of the videos is a case of animal healing that I did on a dog called Woody, where I talk to Woody's guardian, and Woody appears as well. So that's an example. So Woody, I'd never met. They live in the Midlands. I live in Surrey. And he was going through a difficult time seeing the vet. So this was in addition to the vet. And we successfully gave distant healing.
Oh, beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. Yes, it is so potent. And I'm just so glad that you are able to get this information out in such a you're really broadcasting the
Mm.
information and the value of healing out in such a big way, in such a wide way. I think it's incredible work, Alison.
Thank
Um,
you.
for those who are listening, or for anybody who's actually watching this on YouTube, you'll see Alison's contact details and in the show notes underneath. So don't worry if you didn't pick it up. It's actually there. Just check the show notes for you. Alison, you're an amazing lady. This is just the tip of the iceberg. This is just a quick CMA showcase video, of course. I would love to bring you back for a much deeper and bigger interview in the not too too distant future, because I know that the audience will be chomping at the bit saying, come on, let's have more from her. So if you don't mind, we'll bring you back again, because you're just such a special and amazing lady. And I'm so grateful to you for the work you're doing out there. It's so important, and truly, truly appreciated.
Thank you. And I'd love to come back. Thank you
Oh,
for the invitation.
lovely stuff. Okay, Alison, we shall see you soon. Thank you so much for today.
Thank you.